This is Driven By, a podcast where we explore the intersection between passion and purpose, sitting down and having conversations with risk takers, change makers, builders, and entrepreneurs to find out what it is that drives them.
Hello, I'm Noah Fleishman. I grew up around DC, actually grew up in Potomac, Maryland. And then I went to college at University of Maryland. I was in the business school there. And then once I graduated, I moved to DC, and my family owns Bethesda Bagels. So I joined the family in the family business, which has been awesome. My current title is vice president. So I work with my dad and my three brothers, and we make the best bagels in the world, but definitely in the DC metropolitan area. We have 5 locations, which keeps me pretty busy. I work 6 days a week, and on top of that, play hockey, and I just try to be involved in the community as much as possible, hang out with friends, and have fun in DC.
Okay. So I love that we're sitting down and doing this because we actually met by way of my short stint on Rover. I was like looking to mix it up, go on some walks, whatever it was. And you hit me up and you were like, hey, could you walk my dog Lola? And I was like, absolutely. Lola looks adorable. I know nothing about you at this point. And we meet, and very quickly I find out that you are attached to bagel royalty in DC, if you will. And we haven't really had an opportunity to sit down and like talk about Bethesda Bagel in this way. So I'm excited for folks that don't live here in the DMV. We'll say DMV because you have locations throughout. What would you say is like the way that people associate with like Bethesda Bagel? Because it is sort of like a staple in this area.
Yeah, so whenever I am meeting someone for the first time, or they're from the area or whatnot, I say I'm with Bethesda Bagels. My family owns Bethesda Bagels. It is like 110% of the time a great impression, a great first impression, and people are super excited to not only like meet me, but learn about our business. And they almost always have like 3 to 12 questions right off the bat. And then after like 10 minutes, they're like, okay, I'm so sorry. Do you not want to talk about this right now? And as much as I love talking about our business, when I'm out, outside of work, again, I work 6 days a week. So when I'm not at work, I do enjoy, taking a step back and just enjoying not being at work, not thinking about work. But when I meet them for the first time, it's usually a very positive experience, like I mentioned, but they also feel like they're connecting the dots because they know we're a family-owned business. Right. They know we've been in the community for 42, almost 43 years now. And they just enjoy meeting the face behind the bagels.
Right.
Obviously, my parents started it, and now it's my brothers and I. But it is, we are a hometown face. We're actually from here. We're Jewish. You can tell. My name is Noah. I'm a short Jewish kid, and yeah, we are what our bagels represent us as.
Right.
And people just love that. We have integrity, and you'll know from the first time you meet me. I have integrity. I stand up for what I believe in, and we do things the way that we want to do them, not how other people want us to do them. We have no outside investors. We do it ourselves.
It's pretty amazing to meet somebody that is associated with like a family business with such longevity. I think my very first introduction to Bethesda Bagel was actually in Bethesda, like the Bethesda location. My mom's side of the family is from there, and very much like Jewish culture, Jewish family. And we used to get Bethesda Bagel for all of our like breakfasts and things like that. So it's fun to have had that as a child, and then to also like draw it together, and then, meet you and walk Lola all the time, which I love that dog. I love that dog so much. But maybe let's talk about how you kind of got here. I mean, obviously born into the business in some ways, but I'm assuming your family wasn't like, hey, you got to do this bagel thing. So I want to talk about Bethesda Bagel, but I also want to talk about you and what it's like for you to kind of go through this process of deciding to be a part of the family business. Was that like a obvious no questions asked situation, or did you kind of think about exploring things outside of Bethesda Bagel?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to ask the question, actually, because obviously Bethesda Bagels is a huge part of my identity, but also I am a huge part of Bethesda Bagels' identity.
Sure.
Everything that happens in the store is decided on by my brothers or my dad or myself. So let's see, what was the real catalyst? As you mentioned, yeah, my parents were not like, hey, we have a store, we need you, get in there, you're working, this is what you're going to do the rest of your life.
Right.
It was not like that. Can't stress that enough, actually. My dad wanted all of us to go off and do our own thing. We saw him when we were growing up, waking up at 5 a.m. every single day, getting his ass to work, doing the work, coming home, dirty hands. You can see my pants right now. We do everything ourselves.
Right.
When you own a store, if your AC breaks down like today, you got to go fix it. Or, you got to figure out what the issue is so it can be fixed in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
So, my dad wanted us to go off and be lawyers or go work in corporate America, work a 9-to-5 easy job. You clock in, you do the work, you clock out. It doesn't really matter what you do while you're at work, as long as you collect that paycheck, whatever. There's this thing these days where people work from home, which seems pretty cool, although I don't think that would be a good fit for me. But yeah, so I would say he wanted us to all go to college and get a great education and find something that we were passionate about. My brother Danny and I both went to University of Maryland, and if you know the business school there, it's kind of tailored more toward big business and corporate America, which is great. It's an awesome business school. But there's different levels to it, and you can kind of get out what you want from that business school. And so when I was there, I think it was 10th, I went through freshman year, didn't have a great freshman year as far as like academics went. Kind of did the fraternity thing, the Jewish fraternity thing. Shout out AE Pi.
I was going to say it has to be AE Pi or
Great.
Sammy, one of the two.
No, met some really amazing people there. Super supportive group.
Yeah.
They love bagels. So that was great. But met a really great group of kids, didn't focus too much on school. Got to sophomore year, and I was like, okay, what internship am I going to do? Am I going to go abroad? What do I want to do? And then furthermore, what am I going to do when I'm done here? So I think it was 10th grade. I was kind of just coasting through the classes. It was like this thing eating in the back of my mind. What do I want to do in life? What am I passionate about? Who do I want to help? How can I help them? And what need is there that I can fulfill? So that's a really tough question when you're
that young.
When you're a sophomore.
Yeah.
When you're a sophomore in college, you're what, 20 years old? 19, 20?
Yeah.
I guess 19.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to kind of pick a path that you're supposed to follow and succeed in. At the same time, you're supposed to figure out how you're going to take that path and make it something real that you can make money off of and kind of enjoy your life after college. And so that sophomore year was really tough because that was weighing on me for a long time. Fast forward to junior year, and I remember sitting in my room in my house in college, and it kind of just clicked to me because I was working throughout college too. I loved to work. Every Saturday and or Sunday, I would go to the parties at night, and then I'd wake up at 5 or 6 a.m., run to the stores, help out my family because I thought it was the right thing to do.
Right.
Not because they needed me or I had to. They could have hired someone else, but because I'm one of the best employees there. I'm good at what I do. And my dad luckily had a college fund for me. So he's paying for my college. And I felt it was the right thing to do and the responsible thing to do. So throughout middle school and high school, I always worked on the weekends. I'd go to school 5 days a week, work 1 or 2 weekend day. And it didn't change much in college either. Obviously, I missed a few extra weekends. But, I'm sitting there junior year in college and I'm like, I don't have an issue waking up at 5 or 6 a.m. after partying the night before in college. So I can do it. I enjoy doing it. And then I get home from work on a Saturday or Sunday to my 4 or 5 roommates sitting in the house, slouched, smoking weed, drinking beers, doing whatever. And I've already accomplished 3 times more than they will that day. And I felt good about myself. So it clicked. I was like, all right, this is what I want to do. I want to feed the early birds. I want to grow our business. And I like to do it with my family.
Yeah.
I'm passionate about doing things with my family too. So it just seemed like the right thing to do. So from that point on, from that night, actually, that junior year, I actually had an essay to write that night. And it was about like a big corporate job and whatever, being a CEO. If you were a CEO, how would you respond to this complaint? And I emailed the teacher. It was due in 2 days. I emailed the teacher and I was like, hey, listen, this is a fantastic prompt. I've been thinking long and hard about it, but I'd actually like to write it kind of as the president of a smaller business because it's very different. And he said, hey, that's a great idea. If that's what you're passionate about and that's where you think you will end up, go for it.
Right.
So from that point on, most of the assignments I did, I tried to tailor them toward a medium-sized business that I was going into.
It's interesting because like when you think about people that go to get their MBA or they go through business school, you know, an undergrad, they don't always have the opportunity to apply what it is that they're learning in real time in an actual business. They don't really have that look behind the curtain to be able to see the economics of the business, understand how a business is like run, how it grows, how it changes. You're kind of getting this like look behind a curtain while also ingesting all this net new information for you, and being able to sort of apply it in real time. And I got to imagine that's like makes almost the learning experience that much better as well.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I would assume. Before we go any further, I recognize like you have this aha moment and you decide like, yes, absolutely, I'm gonna go ahead and move forward with the family business. I'm curious, when you think back to you as like a smaller version of you, like little Noah, what did you actually want to be?
Like my dad.
You just wanted to be your dad.
Yeah. He's a cool dude.
Is your dad your...
He's my idol for sure. We look a lot alike too. So people were like, oh, that's
interesting.
We look a lot alike. He's a very handsome dude. I would describe him as a mensch, hardworking mensch, and everything that I have, everything that he has, he built it himself.
For people that aren't familiar with Yiddish, do you want to let them know what a mensch is?
Yeah, a mensch is just a good Jewish boy.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't have to be a Jewish boy. A good boy. Just, you know, you would go out of your way. Yeah. If you see an old woman leaving the grocery store, struggling with her groceries, don't say a word, you run over, let me help you.
Yeah.
Something like that. You know, that's also how I've kind of wanted to like exemplify that as well. And that's more for my mother, because she is, as much as I idolize my dad, it's my dad and my mom. Without both of them, I wouldn't be the person who I am today.
Yeah.
And she has so much love in her heart, and she is like she's just very outspoken, and she will tell, if she loves you, you'll know it, you know? If she doesn't love you, you may or may not know it too, but if she loves you, you'll know it, and you'll feel it more so. She's got this personality that's kind of bigger than herself, bigger than life.
Yeah.
So that has helped me to be, you know, I want to please her. I want her to be proud of me.
Sure.
And there's been plenty of times where, you know, I've done some little things on my own without anyone watching. And I've gotten home from school or from work, and she's like, hey, this person called me and they said you did an amazing job. Yeah. Or you did this or you did that. And I don't do it for those reasons, but it's nice to know that my mom can be proud of me.
So 40 plus years, Bethesda Bagels has been a staple in different parts of the DMV. Each time I think it serves as like a community space, a place where people do go and kind of start their day or sort of, you know, take on whatever their weekend might bring them, whatever it is. There's this interesting energy inside the space. It gives you kind of that like New York bagel spot energy, which I think is like intentional. You all build your spaces in a very intentional way, it feels like, where you're kind of creating that environment. Your parents, I don't know anything about them, right? Like, where are they from? Like, what is their background? Because I have to think that when they were building their first Bethesda Bagel, they were emulating an experience that maybe they felt nostalgic about.
Yes. Can you guess where they're from?
I'm assuming New York.
Yeah. So, well, my mom spent her first 7 years in Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
But then after that, she moved to New York.
Yeah.
So her and my mom met in the Bronx. So yeah, my mom and my dad met in the Bronx. And yeah, they grew up in New York, latchkey kids. Yeah. Their parents both worked 9 to 5. So they would go to school on their own in the morning. They'd hop on the bus or the subway or whatever it was. They were on their own. They'd go to school. They'd come home. They'd be alone for another few hours. Yeah. And stumble in all dirty, tattered clothes when the lights came on in the street. Yeah. And then. Yeah, I
mean, it makes sense. It's like, and I think even this last time I was in there, I was hearing people talk about like, yeah, it's always so busy. It's like always so busy. Like, it's kind of like the only place you can get a New York bagel, like in this area. So it's clear that there was intention behind how they like built their space, but also what they're hoping to kind of like cultivate inside of it. As you are stepping into this space and as you're like running, you know, some of the operations and you're like inside the stores and stuff, what are some of the things that you're like looking for to make sure that it kind of continues to be what it has been? And then I'm curious what you think it may evolve to.
Sure. So that's a tough question. Well, it's a tough answer because obviously my mom and dad had this recipe for the store layout the bagels, the feel, the employees, the way the customers interact with the employees, and just the whole operations as a whole. When back in 1982, they weren't saying, how are we going to make operations efficient? That wasn't their main focus. Their main focus was, hey, we have this size space. It's going to be downtown Bethesda one day. We need to make this a space that emulates the New York City experience in an old bagel shop or a deli, while giving it kind of what it needs to be successful in a not so bustling and crazy city.
Yeah.
Right? Because Bethesda, Maryland, back in the day, there was train tracks running through the street. There was NIH labs and a concrete plant. It was not at all what it looks like now. So they had a friend who had this vision, hey, this is the spot. So my parents said, okay, we'll open up here. We trust you.
Yeah.
I think they made like $300 their first day and cried tears of joy. But yeah, they opened this store, and I think they really didn't know what they were doing or how they were going to do it.
Sure.
You can read about our story online, but basically how they decided to open the bagel shop originally was their friend said, hey, you know what we really need here is a good bagel.
Right.
Light bulbs go off my parents' heads. They go back to the Bronx, found this nice old Jewish man who owned the corner bagel shop, Manny Strugach, I believe he was. And they asked him, hey, can we learn from you?
Right.
And so I would imagine that learning experience where they would go in before work every day, before their 9-to-5 jobs, they would go in, learn how to roll bagels, make cream cheese, operate a business, run the books. They did that all for a few months before they went to their regular jobs, because this is what they decided they were passionate about. This is what they wanted to do. So they made it work. And so I believe this first store that they opened in downtown Bethesda, I haven't seen the original store of Manny's, but I would imagine it looks very similar. I would imagine the operations were very similar. So, you know, we have to pay homage to him, because he's kind of given us a lot of our culture that we have now, that my parents decided, you know, they probably picked and choose the different little things, but that's how our first store came to be. And now when we open these new stores, obviously it's my brothers and I kind of running the show now, and it's really difficult to maintain that classic, crazy New York experience that you had growing up, or that they had growing up, or a lot of our customers had growing up, and bring it here in DC or Maryland or Virginia, where again, it's very different culture, very different people. People aren't used to being rushed and yelled at, hey, what do you want?
Right.
You've had 10 minutes in line. You haven't thought about it. Let's go.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very sarcastic experience, and, you know, that's how you become close with somebody. You have like a real experience with emotions, and it's okay to joke around with people. It's okay to give people shit, you know? You have to get them going, and then they realize this guy has a job to do. He's passionate about it. I'm standing in the way, and he's trying to help me at the same time, move me through the line. So then they start to get it. And our best employees, they kind of take our culture and they make it their own too, you know? Especially in our Navy Yard store, it's very different. A lot of our clientele are very different from our Bethesda location. That being said, a lot of our Bethesda employees have actually come, or Bethesda clientele has come to DC. They work downtown and whatnot. But it's really just about the culture that we've tried to push both on our employees and then furthermore on our clientele.
Yeah. It's an interesting discussion to have, because it is like the old guard versus the new guard. And if you start to think about, especially places like bagel spots or morning locations, especially tied to a city, you start to see all of these various QSRs or quick serve restaurants, for people that don't know what that term means, that are creating like mobile experiences and making things go really fast and super efficient. And that exists in the previous, you know, world, where it was like, yeah, you're fast, you get to the counter, you order your thing, you get to the side, move. That is that quickness, but it's a very different, people almost are eliminating that like human to human like interaction, or wanting that human to human interaction now. And so it almost makes you have to lean on your goods a little bit more. Bethesda Bagels super solid. When you think about the quality of what it is that you put out, what are the things that make your bagels, and don't give away too much, but what make your bagels better than your competition? So
this is a good question, but one last thing on the last question you asked. You know, we're losing the third space that people talk about in your lives.
Yeah.
You know, the third space where you go to work, or you have your home, you go to work, and then there used to be, you know, the corner bar or the bowling alley, where people don't really go out anymore on a daily basis or a weekly basis like that, at least not to the same effect that they used to. And so, they get to come to Bethesda Bagels. They see a friendly face in the employee behind the counter who likely knows their order, probably knows their name too, sees them more than, they see most people. And for some of these people who work from home, this can be their first and or only interaction for the day. So people kind of crave it too. And I would imagine that people come in to get their bagel just so they can see our people,
Sure.
have that interaction. And it's cool. I'm proud to be able to offer that to people. And like you mentioned, online ordering is huge. Somewhere between 20 and 30% of our orders now are online orders. And that doesn't mean that the customer doesn't stop and shoot the shit with me or my dad or whoever else is behind the counter. But, creating that third space is very important for us. And it doesn't need to be a sit-down place. It doesn't need to be an hour or two excursion throughout your day. As long as it is that experience that you need throughout the day where you see that friendly face or you can create an aspect of the community that would otherwise not be there. Especially in a place like, for example, we're in Navy Yard. There's very few, if not, I don't think there's any other like mom and pop restaurants or shops here. They're all pretty corporate. There's a few smaller restaurants, a few smaller bars. But everything is getting very corporate these days. So we really want to maintain that we are not that corporate enterprise. We are not, absentee owners. We are there every day.
Right.
We want to see you. We want to be there. We want to make sure everything is running the way we want it to be run.
Sure.
So moving on to what makes our bagels the best.
Yeah, what makes your bagels the best?
Yeah. It's the love we put in them. But no, overall, I'd say it's the love that we put into the business and that we put into the process. We still utilize the same process that my parents learned from Manny back in the day. All of our bagels at every single store, they are hand rolled on site, each location. They are proofed in the big walk-in that's humidity and temperature controlled. We pull them out. Our employees know when to bake them, when they're ready, when they're not. They can tell by the feel if they had too much yeast or they forgot something like an ingredient. And then they're boiled and baked on a burlap in stone oven shells.
Cool. That's really cool.
Stone shelved ovens, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've never made a bagel, so I don't have any idea.
It's a very labor-intensive process.
Yeah.
So
that's why they're made with love.
Yeah, I could tell you the ingredients. I could tell you the process, give you step-by-step instructions, because I am confident you would not be able to recreate them.
You're right.
Yeah, no, it's, we try to give people like the opportunity to make them at home.
Yeah.
And you can't.
Yeah.
And then even if, somebody opens up a new bagel place and you go try their bagels. I mean, there's
a little different.
There's a lot of successful places, but they all taste a little bit different.
Yeah.
And you can't please everybody, but ours are made the right way, so they taste the best.
Okay. We're not going to get into bagel wars. So you've obviously gone through a journey for yourself, right? To decide to be where you are today, which is literally in the stores, getting up early, sacrificing some of your what could be a more or less labor intensive life. You've made this decision because you love it. I'm curious if there was a very distinct aha moment for you as you were starting to get into the mix, as you were starting to step into the roles and responsibilities that you have now. If there's been an aha moment where you're like, I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing right now.
So starting out, I think right before I started working full time, I graduated from Maryland. I was talking to my brother, Danny, who's the president of the business, a good role model for me, a good mentor. And he was like, all right, when do you want to start working? And I was like, whoa, I don't know. He's like, just so you know, you pick this date. Once you start, you work for the rest of your life, basically, when you start work or when you graduate from college, if you don't take that year off, you're never getting a year off from anything ever again. I mean, it's possible you can save some money and do whatever, but chances are that's it. So that was my first moment where I was like, whoa, this is getting real. And I just threw out a date July 20th or something. And he said, all right, 6 days a week, July 20th, you'll be making this much money. And I was like, okay, cool. That's a fine salary with me. And then I moved into an apartment. I had all these expenses on my own and I realized I wasn't making enough money to have that much fun. So at that point, I was went to go talk to Danny and my dad, and I was saying, hey, I want to do more. I want to make more money. I want to have more of an impact. And one of the things Danny said to me was, okay, what I need you to do right now is be a yes man. Whatever I need, yes man. Same with my dad. He said, just anything there is to do, go do it.
Right.
It's 3 a.m., you get a call to go fix an oven, and Danny's already going, go there with him. Or if I'm going, you're there with me. If we got to move some equipment, we got 4 guys already, you're there with us learning how to do it, how to do everything.
Sure.
So I learned how to do everything in the business in the first few years. you got to learn everything,
Right.
whether it's, from the prep team to washing dishes, and you got to learn everything up until, how we're managing payroll and everything like that on the higher end, the upper end. So my real aha moment, I would say, was actually kind of when COVID hit, because I had the opportunity to really step up, and not only for my family and for the business, but also for my employees and our customers for that matter too. Because like we talked about, we're that third space for people where we have customers who come in 5 days a week, every single morning. Every morning, bagel with butter, or bacon, egg, and cheese, sesame bagel, pepper jack.
The bagel with butter always blows me. I'm like,
No, people love it. It's their routine.
I know, yeah.
We are creatures of habit. I can tell you that firsthand.
Yeah.
We are all creatures of habit.
Sure.
So when COVID struck, that was really tough for us because we were booming. Business was really good. We had 6 locations at the time, which is a lot for us. My dad only had 4 sons. 6 locations, the math doesn't add up there.
Someone's not there at some time. Yeah.
So we really had to adjust big time. And not only did business slow down majorly, but we had all of the government mandates. Nothing was super clear, coupled with the fact that we were all trying to not die.
Stay alive.
And
yeah.
So that was tough. And I remember speaking with my brothers and my dad, and a week or two before we knew that there was going to be some big news, I was like, hey, we need to make a plan. Worst case scenario, we're ground zero or whatever it is, what are we going to do? And they were like, let's just worry about it when it comes. We'll just keep going. Business is slowing down a little bit, but let's just whatever. I was like, hold on. That's not how I operate. I want to have a game plan here. Are you guys going to keep working? What's going to happen? And they were kind of like, I don't know. We'll just see what happens. So I went home and I was scouring the internet for, other locations, how COVID affected them, what it would look like for a business in, the mandate world. Wasn't a ton of information, but I started to get a head start and kind of just got the wheels turned in my head. And then boom, closed businesses, except for crucial businesses. What was the term they used?
It was, I can't even remember now.
Necessary, whatever the word was. We're past that. But yeah, but they started closing businesses that weren't necessary. I don't remember the word. And
it's okay. It was trauma. We experienced trauma together. So.
But food businesses were still allowed to be open.
Right.
Thankfully. I mean, we've also been around for 40 years. We weren't just going to shut our doors.
We would have figured that out.
Yeah. So we basically had to stop what we were doing, readjust everything. Customers couldn't come in the store. Business dropped off. Catering disappeared. Catering was a good 30% of our business. Right. So no more office, no more corporate catering, no more large family gatherings. But the first thing we needed to do was make sure our employees were okay.
Yep.
So one thing that's important to talk about during this conversation is that our employees are very important to us, and in turn, we're important to them. A lot of them have been with us for 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Some of them have been with us for as long as I've been alive. I'm 28, almost 29 years. So they've seen me grow up.
You grow up,
and
right?
I'm their boss. That's a crazy dynamic. But obviously, you grow as a family and you grow as people. And I've seen them get chubby, get skinny. I've seen them have kids, their kids move out, send their kids to college. So it's crazy experiences to have with somebody who's not actually a part of your family. You grow a lot with them and you learn and you become a family. So we wanted to make sure they were taken care of. A lot of our employees, some of our employees live paycheck to paycheck. Even though we pay really well, it's just the nature of the business, the food service. So we're really proud that we did not lay anybody off. We didn't fire anyone. We obviously gave everybody the opportunity. Hey, if you don't want to work, if you're not comfortable, if you don't feel safe, let us know.
Right.
We'll make it happen. So some of our employees, probably a handful, 5 to 10, stopped working completely. Some of them took fewer shifts and just worked part-time because they had to take care of their kids at home. No more school, no more childcare. And then a lot of them were like, hey, we want as many hours as possible. We need to work.
Right.
So, we got our food ordering in check, our controllables, which is cost of goods sold, and our payroll. We got them in check. So they were at a point where we had to make this amount of money to break even in our stores so we could pay our employees, pay us, and just stay afloat. And I remember operating like that for a month or two, probably a month or two, where we were just trying to get our bearings, trying to get everything set. And once we got our feet under us, I was like, all right, this is not going anywhere. It's been a month or two now.
Right.
Our employees are okay. We were ordering extra food and rationing out food to everybody, rice and beans and veggies and chicken. We were giving that out to our employees to make sure, if their hours were cut a little bit and their paychecks were cut, they'd still have food for not only themselves, but their families too.
Right.
And so we were trying to be as generous as possible while also staying afloat ourselves and not losing money. Like the same metaphor on an airplane, you got to help yourself first, because if we can't stay afloat as a business, we can't help the 100-something employees that we have working for us.
Right.
So month or two in, I was like, all right, got Uber Eats going, got Grubhub, got Caviar, got DoorDash. We got every app possible, figured out what worked for us. We started doing home deliveries. So we were running around doing deliveries all over within 15, 20 minutes of us. And a lot of these people were elderly. Our clientele is very diverse. A lot of them are elderly or immunocompromised. So we would do everything in our power to make sure they got food in the safest way possible, or what we thought was the safest way possible. And we accommodated some crazy requests because those clients, those customers, they're part of our family too. So that was really important to us. And it makes me kind of emotional too, because it was like, I felt like I was having a huge impact on my community, my customers, my employees, my family. We were booming. We got knocked down a few pegs. We had to stay afloat. And then we started doing pretty well. I mean, what was corporate catering before and huge family gatherings, I guess people took that money and they were working from home and they started patronizing our business. It was crazy. So we did very close numbers during 2020 to what we did before 2020.
It's pretty impressive.
Which is crazy to think about because, you have a 300-person cater or 200-person catering order, which is not that difficult to put together and deliver all at one time.
Right.
And instead, you're seeing 200 customers and you have to deal with each one individually.
That's actually more difficult, right?
Way more difficult. On that. Catering is a moneymaker.
Yeah.
Retail, very difficult to operate. So that was tough.
And I imagine that would be an aha moment for you because you're seeing kind of like adversity, but you're also seeing the familial aspect of the business and you're also touching people's lives in some capacity. So I could see that being a pretty significant aha. Interestingly enough, I almost feel like that could also be a massive challenge for the business that you've had to overcome, but maybe it's different for you. So when you think about your greatest challenge that you've had to overcome since jumping into this business, or Bethesda Bagels had to overcome, what does that look like?
So as a business, COVID, hands down. And one thing to note too, which I don't fault them for it, my brothers and my parents stopped working in the stores.
During that time.
Yeah, I was the only one.
Ground zero.
Yeah. So that was very tough. And it was also tough for someone like my dad who's worked 5 or 6 days a week, 40 years, and he can't sit still. And now he's confined to his house and my mom won't let him out.
Yeah.
She won't let him. He's immunocompromised. He's had cancer. He's had issues, but he's like super fit, healthy guy, but he wasn't allowed to do stuff. And then my brothers, they had young kids at home.
Yeah.
And my little brother lived with my parents. So none of them went to the stores ever. And I don't know if you're aware, but again, I'm dirty today because something broke down. We have 5 stores right now, and something breaks down 1 to 4 times a week where we need to fix it.
Right.
So we had 6 stores, and stuff breaks down, and you got to fix it.
Right.
So whether it's 9 a.m. when you have a line out the door, outside, whatever, or 3 a.m. you get the call, hey, our oven's down, you need to come fix it. I had to do it.
Yeah.
So I was working around the clock. Not only to like maintain the business and make sure that everything was running smooth operationally, boots on the ground, but also a big part of it was like morale.
Yeah.
That was really tough because our employees, not all of them are like quite as educated. They're all, service workers and they don't all have the best news sources, the best doctors and whatnot. And so they're all scared, but they need money, so they have to work. And so kind of finding the right balance between motivating them to work and also making sure they feel safe, but staying happy at the same time. Because why do we do anything? We do it to stay happy, to be human, right? To be happy. So a big part of my job was just being positive every day. I would probably hit between 2 and 6 stores a day. I'd go around what needs to be fixed, what needs to be done, how we doing, let's go, everybody, you're doing awesome. Just, it seems silly, but it was crazy. Like just morale. you know, them seeing me too. Unfortunately, you know, without my family being there, we're a big source of motivation for our employees, right? They get the culture from us and they get motivation to work their asses off. You've seen it in our stores.
Yeah.
It's not like you go into, I mean, not to like
Other places.
Other places and you got someone on the grill. Hey, how long in that burger? I don't know, 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
No, we move. Our employees are moving and they feel it. You know, this is the job and, you know, we expect a lot from them. But we pay them pretty well. They're making $20 to $30 to make sandwiches an hour. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, so it sounds like the challenge and like the aha are the same.
Yeah.
But maybe your experience in that time was kind of like the designated challenge. It almost seems like it's also this world where, and maybe I'm speaking for you, so let me know.
Yeah.
But it's a balance thing too. It's like knowing how much you love what you do and the family business and wanting to keep your employees safe and motivated, et cetera. But also then what's left for you kind of at the end of the day in that experience, right? I would imagine it was sort of a grind for you.
Yeah, it was really tough. And I'm not a big crier, but there were a few days where I'm home.
Yeah.
I was living with my girlfriend at the time and I was like, it was tough. And I just broke down. And that's tough for me. You know, as a man, it's tough to cry, especially in front of your girlfriend. And I had no one else I could do that with. I couldn't see my family.
Right.
Couldn't hug my mom. I couldn't see my family because I was working and I was contaminated or whatever.
Right.
That was the idea back then, which is crazy, but I couldn't go see my parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, we used to do like Sunday family dinners. I used to see my parents a ton. I'm a homebody. Born and raised in Maryland. I live in DC. I went to University of Maryland. I love my family.
Yeah, you haven't gone too far.
Right. And there's a reason for that. I know who I am. I know what I like. And I know what I need. I need the family support. So you're right. And part of that aha moment, I realized that like family is so important.
Yep.
And so I really wanted to build my own family and build a foundation for my family. So if another thing does happen, we're not like too stressed. And again, we never thought we were going to be in that much trouble, but there's always that little thought where you're like, we might lose a business. Yeah. So, you know, you gotta stay humble and you gotta be aware of those things. So, I mean, I was working around the clock and then I'd go home and what else was there to do? We drank a ton. We went through whiskey and tequila and vodka and beers and we had a lot of fun. My girlfriend and I, we had so much fun during COVID, just hanging out with each other, playing board games and cards. We'd go on walks. Luckily, we had Lola, who was a godsend during this time.
She really still is.
She doesn't know what's going on. She's just happy to have mom home 24/7 and then dad comes home and all he wants to do is cuddle. So she was a happy camper. She didn't mind. She got a lot of, separation anxiety.
Afterwards.
That's where that started.
I would imagine.
And also, like, on top of that, money is a motivator as well. So all the things I've talked about come before money.
Yeah, people before profit.
Right. I'm very much intrinsically motivated. But I was boots on the ground, and there wasn't necessarily, like, an excess of money for us. So I just knew, head down, do the work, get everything set, make sure everyone's taken care of. We will come back better and stronger from this.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. And that's what happened. And once we got through, we were on the other side. I made a great case for, I deserve more money. And that's a huge motivator when you have earned that raise.
Sure.
You've earned the extra money. So it tastes a lot better now that I've, broached this. I've gone up, It's great.
Yeah. It's continued development for you within a business that could feel stagnant at times. So that's kind of amazing. I feel like 40 plus years in the world, we could talk about Bethesda Bagel for a really long time, given the short amount of time that we have. When you think about what kind of gets you out of bed in the morning, you've mentioned family, intrinsically being motivated by money and all that good stuff, but I'm imagining that there's like probably something that's more abstract that kind of motivates you or drives you. If you could deduce it down to one word, what would that be?
Passion.
Passion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Growing up, I saw my dad, and my mom too, but I saw my dad work hard, play hard.
Yeah.
And he's got a few of these sayings that I keep in my head. If you want something done right, do it yourself, but work hard, play hard.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing, you do it right. You do it how you want to do it. You do it with the integrity that it deserves. And if you're going to do something, do it with passion.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why are you doing it? What are we here on this earth for? It's to be passionate about the things that we do. So yeah, passionate about bagels. I'm also passionate. We love hockey. Big hockey family. And
What position do you play?
I play defense.
Okay.
And like growing up, I had some coaches. I used to love hitting people. I love checking.
Oh, okay.
I'm just passionate about hockey. It's a big part of hockey and it's important. And there were coaches that were like, damn, Noah, if you were 6 foot tall and 230 pounds, you would kill somebody out here. Like, well, I'm not. So this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was not the biggest guy growing up, but I would go out there and I would rush some people.
Yeah, nice. I
It
played
was
right
fun.
wing. I don't know if I've ever told you that.
You played right wing?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Very interesting.
Reston Raiders.
Really?
Yep.
Did I know that?
No, maybe not. Now you do. Now the world does. Whoever's listening. I played ice
When did you
hockey.
stop playing hockey?
Sophomore year of high school.
Okay. Did
Yeah.
you play in high school?
No.
Okay.
I mean, like club.
Did you love it?
I liked it, but I didn't love it. I loved basketball as a 5'4" female.
Gotcha.
So
Feel that.
I understand. If you were going to give somebody one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're a business owner,
Sure.
nobody, anybody. What would it be?
If you're gonna do something, do it with passion.
I
And
heard you say
every
that.
day,
That might be it.
every day when you wake up, if you're gonna, whether it's, going to work, do it.
Yeah.
Be the best that you can be. That's what makes society better, is being better than the person next to you. And it doesn't always have to be a competition. You can also further the people next to you,
Push
in which case, that's passion right there. If you can make somebody next to you better because you're being better, that's some good passion right there. That's living, right?
Pushing each other.
Yeah, pushing each other, being passionate about everything. And so when I get home from work, or if it's my day off on a Thursday, I have my dog tour, and I always, probably 90% of my days off, we go on a hike. And she can tell when you're like on your phone or disconnected, and that's our time to connect. So I put my phone down, no music, nothing, and we are together on that trail, just us two. Birds chirping, and I'm passionate about having fun with my dog.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
you
Lola
might think
does
that's
know.
silly.
No,
Yeah.
Lola does know when you're on the phone. She's very
She
aware.
hates it.
She
Yeah.
doesn't like it. She doesn't
So
like
if you're going to do something, whether it's walking the dog
Yeah.
or helping the community, if you're going to do it, don't just go out and do whatever and just do some community service. If you're in high school, if you're assigned to do community service, go do it. You're afforded, your time is money. Your time is very valuable. That's one thing you can't get back. So if you're going to put time into something,
Do
be
it.
passionate about it. Do it.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. People want to learn more about Bethesda Bagel, or if they want to pop into a location, where can they find you guys? What is the best way to connect? And what else do you want to say about Bethesda Bagel before we wrap
Sure.
it up?
So we have 3 locations in Maryland. There's one in downtown Bethesda. One is called Wildwood Shopping Center. It's off Democracy Boulevard. We have one in Falls Grove Shopping Center near Shady Grove Hospital. We've got one in DC over here in Navy Yard. And then we have one in Arlington, Virginia in Roslyn. Please come by, ask for myself or a Fleishman. Please introduce yourself, meet us, connect a name with the face, or go on our website. You can read the full story of my dad and mom and how they came to be and Bethesda Bagels and all that. And if you have any specific questions or just want to connect, reach out, or if you need some catering, order at BethesdaBagels.com. You can also email order at BethesdaBagels.com if you need a bagel donation. So one thing we like to do is donate our leftover bagels at the end of the day. And so all 5 of our locations, we have anywhere between 50 and 250 bagels left over at the end of the day. And unfortunately, we don't sell them the next day. So we want to make sure that we can donate as many bagels as possible, get them into the right hands. So our Navy Yard store actually donates the most. I'd say we donate close to 100,000 bagels a year to homeless shelters, at-risk youth centers, churches and synagogues and stuff like that. We are a nonpartisan, unreligious, all that. But if there's a good cause, please reach out.
Okay.
We'd love to help you for fundraisers and whatnot. So
I love
we
that.
love donating bagels. Yeah.
I love that so much. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I
thank
really,
you.
really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. I really appreciate what your store and business means for community. And yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. I feel like maybe there's new stores in the
Yeah, there
making.
might be something in the works here.
All right.
Check
cool.
out our Instagram and Facebook, and you might see something soon.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
All right, that's the show. Thanks for tuning in. If you like what you heard, give us a follow on Instagram, drivenby_blank. Share it with your friends. Pass along the good word. And for the love of God, continue to acknowledge your passions. Let love be your guide and always walk in purpose. Until next time, I'm Karen, and this has been a conversation about the intersection between passion and purpose.